I think they would get out of your way.
If you're not, well, it depends on how fast you're going, right?
I did it this morning.
Yeah. And well, you could still.
I got wet feet with grass on them because my son had just cut the grass yesterday.
Right?
That's going to be the other side too, right?
Yeah. This dress has a lovely zipper up the back, which is designed elegant, but does not go with our chairs. Well, it's not mine.
That's funny.
Yeah, yes. So that you must be starting coding.
If anybody wants water, there are glasses and taps over there. Help yourself. We have 4 more after this one here. So there's 4 more here, and then in January we'll be completely online. So there's 1 in October, there's 2 in November, and 1 in December. Right?
What did you see?
It's almost time, guys. Are we okay?
So we have 5 more.
This is coconut turtle.
4 more after tonight. So October, 2 in November, 1 in December. If you look at the email, Judy's, the last Judy, if you go down to the bottom, she's got the dates there.
Okay.
The 5 counts tonight, so 4 after tonight. We have replays, and the replays are all in one place now. It's really easy.
That's what.
Yeah.
Whatever I try.
Yeah.
There's always something.
There's always something. Well, and we can talk about, I mean, Wednesday seems to work for the majority, so we go with the majority. But once it goes online, it's a lot more, it's a lot easier because you don't have to drive, you don't have to manage all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Giving energy to my car.
Okay.
So he was the one who talked about the charcoal. And then he also wrote a book called
And the hard thing is, they're going like, you need to do it. So that you can, because I still can't figure out how to use Snapchat.
No, I don't.
I'm really good at going on it because Evan was posting stories. And I'm like, how do you know that? Why didn't you tell me?
But then my kids are like,
I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, uh-oh, and I'm filming things. I'm like, oh, God.
What's funny, Elaine always says she started in social media so she could stalk her children. Because that was the only way to find out what they were doing. They would post it and then she would find out, right?
My daughter was going to the green thing. I'm like, where is that? How did she find that out? I'm like, okay, so that's the only reason.
Yep.
Stalking.
Yep. So that's how she started.
I know.
That was a long time ago now, but
Yeah. As long
pretty
as they don't
funny.
quit that and then start something and then you gotta figure that
yeah,
out.
but that's what she does this for a living now. So she's on top of all of them. She's, oh, you need to do this one. No, I'm not. No, I'm just not.
I don't understand the concept of why you want to do it. Like, I want to get information, but I don't want to film what's happening.
I mean,
I don't get
that's
that.
my
Yeah, it's
dad,
also
Kai,
like a Merle, but if you look at this,
like, could you just for 1 second talk to you?
Mhm.
Just like he's talking to you, like,
So I did a lot of
like, do you ever get off that? I said, you should try my off that for 2 days.
search for it,
Oh
and then
my
I just
God.
asked him.
Do you know
So what do you think of this? Like I started
They
making
got told, and they got my
videos.
phone for 2 days, and
We're gonna
then I
have
have
streets
And I was
that
like,
have
so
to
what do you think of
continue,
keto diet?
like things like that, right?
a little bit of
Very
caring
cool.
about the other. Yeah, but like, you know, you just stop caring what people think about you. Hello.
At his age, that would be very difficult.
What's that?
At his age, that would be very difficult.
It's very different. Yeah, he's just like looking at me like, are you
Yeah.
insane?
Right?
My friends would kill me. I'm like, so what? They can't talk to you for 2 days. Big deal. No, don't understand. The world will end.
Yes, this world would end.
Yes, and mine too, apparently. Everybody's just because of that one kid.
Okay. Owning Your Fire, September 13th, 2017. Yay! Yay! We're back after a long summer. And so what I thought I would do next year, when we go completely online, is go back to 10, because I think, we tried it with 2 in April and November, and I think it's a bit too much.
It's
So
too much.
it is too much. So we do have 2 in November this year, because that was the plan. But I'll go back, and what we'll do is January to June, and then we'll take July, August off, and then September, October, November, December, like that. So it just makes it easier, I think, right? So we will have, and so it'll be once a month. It'll be, I'll look, and I expect we'll do like the second Wednesday, and that'll be it. So then you don't have to worry about when it is or what's going on. It'll be just the same time all the time, second Wednesday. Right? Makes sense? Yeah. And I like having all the replays on one page. That makes sense to me. Pretty good. You're allowed to forget, and then you can go look.
Tell us on the next email where you.
It's in all of the emails, every time, honest,
Replays.
right?
And there's a
Just-
I am very unexpected.
I got out tonight. That's huge.
Good job.
Don't worry about
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I know, it was good food.
Those donuts,
Yeah.
were not necessary.
No, they were a little, yeah, and they're expanding in there too.
She had too much, so I had to help.
You had to help,
Oh,
man up,
nice.
help out.
Nice
I
to
got in my
help.
car, I was like, whoa.
that.
Where did you go again, Milestone?
Milestones, yeah, it was good. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at removing associations that we have with kind of everyday things. Okay, so let's do some cell breathing. Okay, to get things rolling. So cell breathing, you could start by picturing one cell, find the spark of light in the cell, breathe into that spark of light, and as you breathe out, let that light expand out through you. It is noisy, isn't it? We're trying to find a balance between noisy and hot. This is on the street, so that'll be worse. I might be able to open. I don't know if the kitchen ones will make it better. So, and then as you get comfortable breathing, breathe through all of the cells, breathe into the spark of light in every cell in your body. And as you breathe out, expand that light. So it flushes. So it flushes your energy, it flushes your tissue, flushes the spaces in between. So it can let go whatever you need to let go. That's it. Breathe into that light. As you breathe out, the light expands. Flush and let go. I'm going to talk a little bit. So if you can keep breathing going, that's fine. If you can't, don't worry about it. So if you remember the cat story, you can do it again. So the little kid is playing with cars or blocks or something. Mom's in the kitchen making spaghetti. She's putting the water in the big pot. She drops the pot in the sink, makes a big noise, scares the kid. The kid cries. So she goes out, comforts the kid. We're all okay now. Goes back in the kitchen. She's doing her thing. And then suddenly the kid cries again because the cat walked through the room. But the kid can't express what's upset him. So she just goes out, comforts him again. Okay, fine. And what happened was, because he was startled, which is a threat reaction, what happens is your system goes, pay attention to everything because it's a potential threat. The cat just happened to be in the room. So the kid was never hurt. It was just a noise that startled him. The cat didn't do anything. It just happened to be in the room. So what happens is subconscious forms an association. This is how allergies form. So when you have an allergy, your body treats something as if it's a threat. So in that situation, that kid could easily become allergic to cats. And then also, because of caveman living, when everything was about survival, you generalize. So a couple of weeks later, they have some people over for dinner. Uncle Joe comes. He's got a beard the same color as a cat. Kid cries. Uncle Joe didn't do anything. The cat didn't do anything. The kid was never hurt. This is about how your subconscious processes potential threats in your environment. Potential threats. Not even actual threats. You form an association. So years ago, I was allergic to a thing. I had a piece of paper from the doctor that was 2 columns of things I was allergic to. I think it was 32 things. And I spent one summer just clearing these associations. Allergies were gone. So I was at that point in time, like the kids had friends and they had cats. So if they were over at the friend's house and I had to go pick the kids up, I would have to go ring the doorbell and run back to my car and shut the door. Because if she opened the door, like the cat stuff would come out, my lungs would try and collapse. I was that allergic. And I went from that to I'm fine with cats. So it's amazing to me how a subconscious association can create such a strong physical reaction. And yet if you pause and think about it, there are things that make you react. So, easy, obvious examples are if you see a name on the call display and it's someone you don't want to talk to, think about what your body does, right? It's pretty strong because nobody's making you pick the phone up. Nobody's making you press answer. And yet you see that name on the call display and every muscle in your body goes tight.
That's asking, did she know what caused the threat allergy beforehand, or just did a clearing?
Did I know what caused the allergy? No, I didn't care. I didn't care because especially when it's something like hay fever, that just means something upset you and there happened to be pollen in the air. That's, I remember reading I had a medical document that came from a research scientist that I work with sometimes. And they did all of this research about kids with asthma. And so what they found was, say the kid would have an asthma reaction about cats, for instance. This is just an example. But they said, sometimes the person with asthma would have a really bad reaction to the cats. Sometimes they'd have a mild reaction. Sometimes they wouldn't really particularly react. And what was the difference? And what they discovered the difference was what happened emotionally for that person 8 hours prior. And it was 8 to 24 hours prior. So, if yesterday was a bad day and then there was a cat, they'd have a really bad reaction. But if yesterday was a good day, not so bad. So this is science. This is not energy stuff. This is science. And they've proved that the reaction, the intensity of the reaction depends on what's going on emotionally, how much stress they're under. They know this for all allergic reactions, not just asthma. So, they figured out that it's a combination of things. So it could be a combination of allergens. It could be a combination of stresses. But, basically stress is a primary element for how people react to allergens. So the thing is, it's not just about allergies. There are other reactions you have besides allergies. Things like, tight neck, things like feeling tired, things like whether people push your buttons or not. Because, sometimes people can aggravate you a lot, and other times you can slough it off and it doesn't bother you. And the difference is the emotional state, the other things that you have going on emotionally, right? Now, here's the problem. Now, go back to the stop sign story, right? Let me tell that one again, because it's been a while, right? So there's a guy who drives to work every day, and on his way to work, there's a 4-way stop sign. And you know how people behave at 4-way stop signs. There's a set of rules, but it's like they forget them. So sometimes there's somebody aggressive and they just always barrel their way through. And sometimes they play that inch ahead game. Is it my turn? Is it okay for me to go? And they do the inch ahead and they stop, an inch ahead and they stop. And, nobody seems to be getting anywhere because everybody's afraid it's somebody else's turn. So this guy, when he gets to that stop sign, sometimes he gets cut off and that irritates him. You know, sometimes people are doing the inch-ahead game and that frustrates them. And because we are designed to anticipate threat, what will happen is, before he even gets to the stop sign, his limbic system will produce frustration and the feeling of getting cut off. Whether or not it happens, he expects it to happen, so his body will go into that state. Okay? And because it happens Monday to Friday, every day, it's cumulative. So in psychology terms, that's called a gestalt, is that because it's repetitive, what happens is you don't have a reaction based on the event at the moment. You have a reaction that builds up, accumulating all of the reactions that you've had for how many days the guy's been going to that stop sign. Now, he doesn't know any of that's going on. It's not like he gets out of bed in the morning and says, oh my God, I got to go face the battle at the stop sign. And I'm pretty sure he's not thinking the stop sign is a war zone or a threat, the way his subconscious is. But if he's cranky because he's anticipating the threat, you know, the wife says, what's wrong with you? He probably says, I hate my job. Because what will happen is he has the feelings, and his cognitive brain will look for a story that makes sense of these feelings. So if he's feeling aggravated and frustrated every day about going to work, then he starts assuming it's about work. And if he's assuming it's about work, guess what? Before very long, it's going to be about work, right? Because he's going to go in there aggravated and frustrated, and that will affect all of his experiences, right? So one day he's at work, the wife phones, says, pick me up the milk and eggs. So he stops at the supermarket. He gets the cart, he heads for the back of the store, because the smart people put the milk and eggs at the back of the store, because they know that the women will pick up 27 things on their way to get the milk and eggs. Guys don't, they just tunnel. So he takes his cart, he goes down the end, and at the end of the aisle, where the cross aisle is, somebody cuts him off. And he loses it. He's furious. He's not furious because somebody cut him off with a grocery cart. He's furious because of how many hundreds of times he went through that stop sign and was frustrated and feeling cut off, whether or not it happened. Because we don't generalize based on the circumstances, we generalize based on the emotion. So the set of emotions that go with the stop sign were frustration and feeling cut off. The minute he felt frustrated and cut off in the supermarket, he got every event piled on. And that is why people will have a reaction out of proportion to what's going on. Because it's not a reaction to what's actually happening in the moment. It is the accumulated reaction from every other time they've felt that experience. And it's not sorted by the type of event, it's sorted by the set of emotion. It's sorted by the set of emotion. So pause and consider the kinds of things that irk you. And probably the things that you think shouldn't irk you. Like, for instance, the telemarketers that always call it supper time. You know, I know lots of people who get irked by that. Why do they call it supper time? Well, I don't even look. You know, the thing is if it pushes your buttons, it pushes your buttons. What irks you? Think about what irks you. And this doesn't have to be the big things. I'm looking for the little things. The little things that you dismiss and say, well, it's not important. It shouldn't bother me. But it does.
You want examples?
Sure.
My husband leaves the shower curtain open.
See,
And I have communicated that I do not like it, and he does it anyway.
Yep.
It drives me bananas.
Right? And so the fun part of this is, as long as it drives you bananas, he'll keep doing it.
Yeah. Today he pushed it extra. He's been getting better at like pushing it halfway, but not all the way.
Right?
And then this morning it was like, oh my God.
Right?
See how much anger
See? Well, and we all, like, everybody has those, right? right? Well, seriously, and you know that.
So I did call him a misogynist and told him he hated his mom the night before.
That might have something to do with it,
May have had something to do with it.
Maybe.
just a little bit. The thing is, as long as it bothers you, it'll keep happening.
Yeah.
And if you release that so it doesn't bother you anymore, there's no point. It doesn't need to happen anymore.
Okay, so my 16-year-old makes a clicking noise.
With his teeth?
No, with his tongue. when he's
Oh, his tongue?
eating. And I'm just like, yeah, he'll just be like eating a sandwich. I'm like, please stop doing that. God, Mom, what's the problem? And I feel
People do that, bugs me too.
I don't know why that bugs me so. I'm just thinking it's an odd thing to do. It's like a quirk, kind of like,
Like, good to get over it. For him, this is.
yeah, but like I'm trying to think. I find it very curious as to why it bugs me so much. I'm thinking, it's almost like it irritates me, but I also feel like he's stupid for doing it. Like, God, that's a stupid thing to do.
So
And I'm
I
thinking
guarantee you that you were not allowed to do that when you were a kid,
Guarantee you that's true.
right?
Absolutely, and I guarantee you I was the weirdest kid with all these weird things. That I
Little
used
quirk
to
things,
do.
yep. And that's, so it bothers you because here's
I
what
was
happens.
made to be ashamed of it.
You were made to be ashamed of it, which means if you let him do it, he's in danger. He's in danger from the people who threatened you when you did it.
Oh, that's why I'm so angry. With
Yeah.
it. Right. Yeah, I'm just like really livid about it.
Yep.
Just like, wow.
Because you
this is-
feel like he's in danger,
Okay.
because you were. You were in danger if you didn't stop. And so it kicks in the protective urge. So it's about going back and saying, I don't need to be afraid anymore. Nobody's going to hurt me.
Afraid of being weird, like doing
Or
weird things.
Any
or
of that,
whatever.
right?
Like just weird little
Yep.
quirky
Yep.
habits.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All those things. So we all have these little bits and pieces. And it's, whether somebody else is doing weird things or it's a thing that we call ourselves wrong for doing. Right? Oh, why do I always, I don't know, overspend when I'm shopping? Or why do I always have a hard time parking or whatever? It's understanding that these are things that actually don't matter and yet they upset you. Okay? Now, part of this is to understand you create these things because being upset is the comfort zone. So for instance, if you grew up in a household where people were picking on you, then in your work environment, you will put people being aggravating because you're used to being aggravated. Right?
You will what? Sorry. I guess.
So wait a minute, she said something important. If you grew up in a household where people were aggravating you and picking on you, I can't imagine. Then you will, in your workplace, recreate being aggravated because it's the comfort zone. Even though it's unhappy, for your limbic system, it's about recreating the same emotional dynamic.
Since you started with sub-breathing, I almost burst into tears at that point. I had a headache most of the day, but didn't take anything for it. I feel like I'm just turning into a puddle.
We have tissues.
Yeah, I checked.
There's some there too. There's more. Because this brings up stuff.
Because I'm calling myself wrong all the time.
Yep. And key things to understand. So one is there's an association. For instance, if you think like when you're a little kid, your world is really small, okay? Especially before you go to school. So if you think like up until 4 or 5, whenever you would have gone to school, there's not much in your world. There's not a lot of people in your world. There's not a lot of, planet in your world. There's, your house and your backyard and, whatever other kids you played with. It's kind of like you have a small world, okay? So you get to think this is the way the world is. So if somebody's aggravating you or picking on you or calling you wrong, then basically you get conditioned to think this is the way the world is and it's supposed to be this way. And your limbic system will therefore recreate it for you.
So perhaps the reason I'm finally able to get a cat is because the only one I could trust when I was a kid was a cat.
Yep. Good for you to get one. Right? And so,
Interesting what you said earlier, because in my new job, which I love in many ways, the part that drains me is I'm constantly doing conflict management.
right?
Hello,
Hello.
my sister.
Yeah, think might have something to do with
So I
that.
have to work- So I have to work on it so that I don't expect conflict all the time.
Right. Don't expect
There
it.
will be less.
Truly, if you are able to let go of the pattern, so because here's the thing for your limbic system, because it's what it's doing is it's saying, okay, here's what you survived, so this is what you need to be safe. Your limbic system doesn't think in terms of happy, and the limbic comfort zone is what you grew up with, not what makes you comfortable. Okay, right?
Strange way it makes you comfortable because you know you survive it, so you know that you're safe.
It's what's normal for you. It becomes your normal.
So is it a good thing that I got the cat?
Yes,
even
it
though
is.
Bugs me?
It is a good thing that you got the cat,
So,
because it's about teaching yourself to feel comfort.
and yeah, since I won't comfort myself.
It's about letting the cat comfort you, and it's being very demanding about it. That's a good thing.
And
So
so,
that's annoying.
well, no, it's annoying me because I should be writing, but I I shouldn't be writing. I should let it go. It's not
Should let
fun.
your cat love you.
Yes,
Yeah.
and have fun.
Right.
Good at that.
Right?
So the shower curtain pushing over, I'm actually not mad about that. What I'm upset about is the rebellion.
Yes.
So
So basically, think about it, because what you're upset about is someone who is in your home and therefore should be part of your support system.
Yeah.
Is attacking you. So therefore he's fulfilling the role of your brother.
Yeah.
Right? Right? And so here's the thing. I mean, we're in good shape because we've done a lot of work. Okay? You've done a lot of work. It's good. And this is why I said I want to pick at the stuff that's like really everyday stuff, because one, it's aggravating every day, and two, it's insidious. You don't think about it because it's like little things that are not terribly important. You dismiss it.
The little things are the most important.
And they add up. They're the drip of water. They're the straw on the camel's back. So we tend to tackle the big things that bother us a lot, and you forget there's this straw being piled up on you, and the more of that straw that there is, basically the shorter your fuse is for the other stuff too, right?
I'm saying feeling left out, obviously a pattern from childhood.
Yeah.
And although this is a safe place, I feel left out of the group because of the camaraderie of the group.
Yeah. See, and it's interesting because it's all here. The camaraderie is here. Everybody's included in the energy. There are twice as many people online as there are in the room. Right? Right? And yet, when I've done it remotely, because I've done it January, February for a couple of years running now, I feel it just as strongly. Right?
It's because of your comfort zone again, right? It's
Yep.
when you're not used to being included, you're not opening yourself up to the fact that we're all sharing the energy.
And you're not allowing yourself to feel that
And
inclusion.
we're sending Pat hugs.
Yay. So it's interesting because it's fair to say you guys know how to manage the big challenges. You've done it. Apparently somebody didn't like me saying that.
no more big stuff.
Well, and I mean, that doesn't mean you won't reach out or you need some encouragement or whatever, need some guidance. The thing is, you understand how these patterns work. It's the day-to-day stuff that you dismiss without even realizing you're dismissing it.
So kind of revelation.
Good. That's what we're about.
When you were talking, I just realized, like, when I was small, I used to hide emotionally,
Yes.
and I still do it.
Yes.
But I didn't realize that till now.
Fitting, right?
Wow.
Yay. Right? It is a big one. And now here's another step for that. Because when you were a child, you hid emotionally for a reason. It wasn't because you were bored, Like there were reasons for you to hide emotionally. The thing is, you're going to recreate reasons to hide emotionally. You won't just recreate the hiding, you'll recreate feeling you need to. And that's important too, because imagine letting that go. Right? Yeah.
Do that everywhere.
Right? See?
I'm still trying to figure out my connection where my brain wants to do all this stuff, but my body refuses
Yes.
to do it.
Well, and understand, your limbic system rules your body.
So that's what I can't, because as a kid, I left the house as much as I could.
Yes.
I didn't like it there, and my friends and I always did stuff. So I'm not sure.
Well, so here's the thing to understand. You're saying, I want to do all this stuff and I'm not doing it. Basically, the short answer is your limbic system does not want to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Period.
I can't convince it.
You
I've been
can't.
working on it for the last little bit.
Well, here's the thing. It's not about convincing it. Okay? It doesn't need you to convince it. What it needs you to do is make a commitment to your safety. Because your limbic system doesn't want to go do all that stuff because it's unsafe. And this is the challenge, because you're going, the cat didn't hurt the kid. The stop sign is not a war zone. Like, what the hell? The problem is your limbic system is all about survival. The software is designed for back in the cave when, there were things trying to eat you. And it still operates the same way. And so it's not about convincing it. It's about finding out what do you need to feel safe? Hold on. So there's two critical things in order to feel safe, which is not the same as be safe, okay? In order to feel safe, you need to feel you have access to resources and the ability to predict behavior. That would be the one you're having trouble with. Okay, access to resources and the ability to predict behavior. Because if you can predict behavior, then you can decide how to interact with it. You can figure out how to manage it. Now, just as a footnote, narcissists will automatically do erratic behavior because it's a way to keep you in seat. Right? They will be unpredictable. And I mean, it's not like they sit around thinking, how can I be unpredictable? That's not what's going on. They just automatically will be unpredictable because they want people to be in seek because that's what they need.
So then if you grew up with a narcissist,
then you will automatically feel that you are unable to predict behavior and be in seek all the time. Right? Right? Okay. So now here's the interesting thing. One would think, like if you're an adult and you're rational, you think, well, if they're unpredictable, then they become predictable in their unpredictability. Do you see what I mean? Even chaos can be predicted. But the problem is you were required to conform. And the conforming includes not being able to predict, staying in seek. Ding, ding, all over the place. Ding.
No, say it
Ding. Hold on. I right? How do you know it's important when she becomes Charlie Brown's teacher?
She's threatening me.
Right? So when you have the narcissist and you're programmed to conform, then the expectation you're required to conform to is that you cannot predict behavior. Because that's how they want you. They want you to be in seek. That's what they're looking for. In theory, to feel safe. Not that they ever do, but this is what they're seeking. Yeah. They're seeking you being in seek. So they want you to not be able to predict behavior. So you will shut down your capacity to predict behavior to keep them comfortable.
So what was it? The narcissist plus something to conform?
So if there's a narcissist around you, we're tribal. So we're automatically designed to conform to the tribe. And because they're part of your tribe, what they want you to conform to is to be in seek to them, which requires that you are not able to predict behavior.
that's why I have a hard time. Even though I can read people, I
Yes.
don't. I
See?
literally don't. And I'm
See?
like, why? I know I can do it.
See?
Oh my God. Same thing. I can read, but I don't.
Right?
So is that the same thing you told me that when I was in conform as a kid and I always called myself wrong, so I got blamed for a lot of stuff, or I chose to get blamed for it. But I was in conform.
So here's the thing. You said, I called myself wrong,
Yeah.
so therefore I got blamed for things. The thing is, you have to understand, it's not like you're 5 years old and you say, well, I think what I need to do is call myself wrong all the time.
Yeah.
You were trained to call yourself wrong.
Yes.
You were trained to take the rap for things.
Yes.
Nicholas is my middle son, and we jokingly blame him if he's not in the room, because as far as he's concerned, he gets blamed for everything. So now it's a standing joke. You know, I went to the supermarket and the cucumbers were expensive. That was your fault, Nicholas. you know, and we do it deliberately to make him aware that this is not about you. You know, like this is a thing that you've picked up. It's a middle child thing, right?
But what I was wondering is that what you said, I was in conform with people that love me, but my problem was when I left home, I was going to be in conform with the world.
Exactly.
And they did not love me.
Correct.
And lots of them hated me, and some were more mean, and some of them were dangerous, and
All
so
of that.
is that the same as not being able to predict behavior then?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
and I
back
think
to
there was
this,
something over here. So hold on.
You said you want to do all that stuff, but it wasn't safe, and I think if I went out and did things, I might not be allowed back in again.
Right?
So if I go out and do that, even though it's my home and I own it,
Right?
but I'm still not safe, so.
Well, then I remember when you got the motorcycle and immediately crashed it, because it was like this was a wild and exciting thing to do, so you had to stop,
Yeah,
right?
it was beyond others' comfort zones.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even the singing.
Sorry?
That's like me with my singing.
Yes.
So,
Right? So this is all about opening up your expression, right?
is that mine too?
Yeah.
So we can actually test the limbic system
Right?
if you want. There's a physical test.
Oh, okay. Hold on. There's a question over here. I'll get back. Okay. There's a physical test for the limbic system?
To see if it's not working appropriately.
Oh, the thing is, it is working appropriately.
No, I mean like it's overtaxed.
Okay, that means it's stressed.
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to feel stressed if it perceives a threat.
Yes. So that's part of the test. You have
Okay.
to be thinking about a stressful event,
Mm-hmm.
and then if your body can actually override that,
Mhm.
then it's actually not.
You're retraining your system.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of like, doing the crawl thing to work out the
Yes, it's
things
a
from the
rhythmic
crawling.
movement test.
Okay, is it like, can you show us in 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, Tony's going to show us something.
Who's feeling particularly stressed right now, though? That would be. Should we pick Margaret?
You don't have to do it. I'm just saying.
So maybe lying on the mat there.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to have to relay things too. So what we've got is we've got Tony showing us how to do a test with the limbic system. So Margot's on the floor. She's got to lie flat.
Yeah. And all I'm going to do, Margot, is touch one of your limbs, and you need to raise it for me.
Okay.
Okay? Does that sound like a thing you
Okay.
do?
She touched her leg, so Margot lifted her leg. Touched the opposite arm, Margot lifted her arm. So this is pretty straightforward. Tony's just reaching and touching a limb, and Margot's lifting it, putting it down again. And now she did 2 at one time. Oh, and you see, and so what Tony did, she touched one leg and one arm, and Margot did not lift the one she touched. Nope, that's okay. And that's
That's the end of the test.
see. So is this just informing that the limbic system is upset?
Yeah.
Then how do you retrain it?
So then you do the rhythmic movement training.
Okay. So here's what you're going to do, Margot.
So the windshield wiper ones.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to skip over that and do a
Can I
different
sit
thing.
down?
Yep, you can absolutely sit down. So having gone through the test, the clue was because Margot didn't lift the 2 limbs that were touched, that's the message that the limbic system is stressed. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to just lie and think about which limbs you want to lift, and lift those limbs and put them down on your own terms. So it could be 1, it could be 2, whatever you feel like. I want you to go through the process of deciding what you want to lift and do it. Atta girl. Whatever you want. This is now on you. You decide what you're lifting, you decide what you're putting down, and when you're doing it. That's it. So when you play with this at home, that's the key, is to step from I'm responding to a requirement to I choose. And so you can choose what you lift, you can choose what you put down, you can choose the combination, you can choose how long, you can sing little songs. The key is to step from I'm responding to a requirement to I choose.
And that's with anything then.
Yes.
I think it was these two she might have touched.
Doesn't matter.
This one, and this one.
Doesn't matter. What matters is that you decide. And whenever you feel like it, you can. Well, thank you for volunteering. So if you feel like, well, yeah, but what if I don't have someone to experiment with? Then what you do is you, like, find an online yoga tape or something. Because if you go on YouTube, there's a zillion of yoga or whatever, and follow it along. Okay. Notice that as you follow it along, you'll get more stressed because they're telling you what to do and when to do it. You will automatically get more stressed. Okay.
That's why I don't want to do yoga.
Okay. So the key thing, if you want to do yoga or Tai Chi or whatever online, is you have to decide that you don't have to follow it. You're going to do it on your own terms. You're going to do it when you feel like it. Okay. And, you know, if you're trying to create a behavior where you'll actually do them, then automatically break the requirements so that you're comfortable doing that. Okay. But what you can do to recreate this is put one on, follow it along. Notice that it bugs you to try and follow it. And you get angry because you're going, yeah, but if I'm supposed to turn my head this way, I can't see the stupid screen. Like, why would they set it up this way? You'll find yourself having that internal chatter. And the minute you do that, you know you're stressed and you know that you're stressed about the requirements. So then stop it and say, my terms, my way. And do exactly that. Say, I will do what I want to do with my arms and my legs and my head or whatever. And do it until you feel calm again. Okay.
It's the same true for the opposite though, like, because you could do yoga just in your own flow after you've done it many times, you know what to do.
Absolutely.
But I stop myself from doing it.
Yes.
Because the conform is to follow.
Yes. You see?
Somebody, right?
Exactly.
And then be mad about following
Right?
it.
So I did Tai Chi for years. And Tai Chi is very much about you do the specific sequence. And they have all these different forms. So like there's a 40-step form and an 80-step, and there's a long form and a short form, and you know there's tons of this stuff, right? I mean, I always followed along the teacher. I don't remember, and I have no intention of memorizing this stuff. So if I do Tai Chi now at home, I just do the movements. And I know the movements because I did it for 8 years. I don't worry about what order they go in. There's ones I don't like, so I don't do them, and there's ones I do like, so I do more of them. I just do what I want. And it's key because even though these sequences are designed, they're designed to teach you different defense mechanisms and stuff. I mean, that's what Tai Chi is about. It's a martial art. That doesn't mean I have to do it for that reason. And if I want to put on one and follow it, I can, because I'm really certain I don't have to. Right? I'm really clear about that.
Can I point out something though for Margot? You actually did very well in the beginning considering you were stressed. And I actually changed your requirement by doing 2 limbs, and that's what screwed you up.
It was the.
Yep.
I felt.
You did fine when I only did 1, like I said I was going to.
Oh, I didn't even remember that you said.
I know, that's part of, so your limbic system was working appropriately.
Limbic system, like, oh, hell no.
Well, because the
Because I
requirements
changed the
changed,
requirement.
and that's an automatic freeze and hide, you see?
So it's like my brain just went.
Right? Automatic freeze and hide.
Oh.
Automatic. And you can
Still,
feel,
I had to follow the conform and lift something.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and you can feel yourself do it because you said, you know, my brain went clunk, and that's the freeze and hide. You felt the freeze and hide occur and still trying to scramble to conform, right?
I got a playtime.
Right?
I have to learn.
I have to be like.
Very interesting, right? Very interesting to watch this at play. Okay. Let's go back to cell breathing for a minute. And so as you're doing your cell breathing, think about the stuff you want to flush, because there's the stresses that you've accumulated from a lifetime of all these little conform programs. And so think about breathing into that light and letting yourself flush those stresses. And think about letting yourself flush the patterns. Think about letting the light flow through you and just dissolve the patterns, because you don't need those anymore. And it's really important to remember that the reason you can flush the pattern is because you can choose how to interact with the requirement. You can decide. You can decide when it's appropriate to interact, like it's a good idea to, drive on the proper side of the road so you don't get killed. You can decide, this one suits me, it works for me. Mm-hmm.
Can you also add that I can predict behavior, or?
Not yet, one step at a time. Okay. So I want you to move your bag so you can put your feet together. Because so what Michelle is doing is she's got her knees together and her feet far apart. That's 4 years old, right?
I used to sit like this.
Yeah. Well, and that's okay. But this with the knees together, feet apart, that's little girl.
Okay.
And that's a reaction.
Okay.
So you can pay attention where you are, because your body will tell you things.
So what's one leg up then? I was a one leg upper. Is that a rebellion thing? Avoiding?
Like that or like that? Which way?
Like this, I think.
So that's protecting being female. So Tony said, what does it mean if I was crossing my legs? So specifically crossing your legs, you're hiding your genitalia. So it's protecting yourself because you're being attacked for being female.
Oh, I totally am.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So Estrella's sitting, and what she's got is she's got one leg down and she's got her foot tucked under her opposite leg. Right? So pause and look and see what her body's doing. Okay?
Protecting?
Yeah. And again, it's protecting. So you cross your leg, which means nobody can get at me. Okay? You're saying, I'm not. It's a different thing. This is a cancel. I'm not. So you're saying, I'm female, but I need to protect it. You're saying, I don't want to be female. Right?
I did my bra so I could breathe.
Right?
Took my bra off tonight.
Right?
Okay.
See? Sorry?
Is there something wrong with how I'm sitting?
It's not about wrong. It's about recognizing there's messages.
What is it telling
Okay? So, is there a message, which is different? Is there something wrong? There's nothing wrong with it. Okay? So you've got your arms down, so there's pressure there. Okay? That's going to, absolutely, okay, fine. But the pressure jams up your neck. Okay? You jam up your neck, you restrict your expression. Okay? Your hands are not, they're in front of your solar plexus. Like, just look at where they are. So they're in front of your solar plexus. And the solar plexus is all about, I discover me in relation to. So it's all about seeing yourself in your interactions with others. So you're basically saying, I don't want to interact with anybody.
I don't want what?
To interact with anybody.
I was about to say, it sounds like work. I'm already tired, leave me alone.
Right?
And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have to interact with somebody, you're not expressing.
It's
You're just expressing just.
I can express on my own.
Well, you will discover different things. Expressing on your own, you will discover different things than if you interact with others. It will show you different information. It's just different information. It's up to you whether you want that information.
What about her? She looks very relaxed.
I'm sorry?
She looks relaxed to me.
She's got a sore knee. That's why her
Oh.
that's why her leg's up on a chair.
I actually would like to be doing this, but this leg, but I can't.
You can have more chairs. You're allowed.
No. I mean, I'd like to be able to bend my knees.
Yes, to do this. So Joe's got one leg up on a chair because she hurt her knee, and it's her left knee, which means it's about limiting potential. So it's about blocking potential, right? We already chatted about that, right? Does that make sense? Do you understand? Because this is this part with having one leg crossed over the other, which literally blocks entry, means I'm not safe being female. And then you've got your hands wrapped around your knee, okay, which that would be pulling your knee in, right? So that's what that's about. So it's cowering. It means if you're a female, you have to cower, right? It's
And
challenging.
these chairs, you're short and you're close enough to the ground that you're not doing this because your feet hang, which sometimes happens.
Yes. Happens to me all the time. I have short legs.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the carotid goes down.
So is blocking feminine this way too, or no?
No,
Just this?
yeah, no, you'd have to, so your legs are crossed above the knee, right?
Oh, men who cross their legs.
Same thing. They're protecting their genitalia. Usually they feel emasculated,
Come and get my genitalia.
Men spreading.
right? Hold on. So, because Tony asked, what if you're crossing your legs at the ankle, which is, I have done. And it's actually restricting a flow of energy. So I learned that many years ago and I deliberately override it because I find if I sit like this, I jiggle. So I jiggle a lot.
So is that conform though, to stop yourself from jiggling?
No, it just makes noise on the recording.
If you jiggle your leg.
So if I bounce, I hear it in the recording. Right? Well, I've had people tell me it means you're relaxed, and I've had people tell me it means that you're stressed. So
It has to do with Patricia O'Reilly's stuff.
Hops.
whether you process still or process with movement.
Right.
Yes. So the hop stuff says you either process by being still or you process by moving. I process by moving. Okay. So I've just trained myself to have the movement in my energy instead of in my body. So this stops me from doing it without thinking, because I could hear it in the recording.
I do that at night all the time, and I just remembered that when I was a kid, I can only get to sleep by doing this.
By jiggling, and it bothers, if you're sleeping with someone, it bothers them, right? Right?
Patricia Wall back asked when we were talking about narcissism. She said Cameron was predictable. I could predict his behavior. What's happening?
But that's because you did a lot of work, right? So you're trained young, but you started about 7 years ago figuring out how to predict behavior from Cameron. You didn't start out knowing how to do it. You did the work around it. I remember, I was there. So pat yourself on the back because you worked hard for that. He wasn't always predictable for you. That's something you worked to get. And I remember when you turned that point. So your body tells you all kinds of things. It'll tell you with aches and pains. It'll tell you with sensations. It's going to tell you all kinds of things. See, and if I do that, I automatically start jiggling.
So in rhythmic movement, crossing the legs like this is actually an indication that the fear paralysis is still on.
I don't feel proud. Yeah, so I do it very deliberately, but I correct the energy when I do it.
Yeah.
And that's conscious on my part, because I had to figure out how I could stop myself jiggling and not block the energy. Because if you just do this, you block energy flow. So I had to correct the flow. But
it would make sense that this would be that reflex, because it would be stopping the flow.
It would be
of
stopping,
fear too, right?
Or it could be holding the flow of fear, right? So Tony said, if you cross your feet at the ankles, it could be a fear reaction. It could be that you're holding on to the fear because it's comfortable, right? It's a way to preserve. Now I'm going to test myself and see if I can do it without jiggling.
We need to get
See.
you a weighted blanket for your day.
See, oh, that would make me hot. Thank you. It's a nice thought. It's yeah. So what I do when I'm at my desk is I have tennis balls and I roll them under my feet all the time, and that helps me not jiggle, because if I'm on the phone with people, they can hear it, right?
We have lap pads for kids. They're weighted lap pads.
Yeah, that would just drive me crazy.
Or a tensor thing.
Band, yeah. Tennis balls work fine. I just roll them around under my feet.
Great acupuncture.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does denial come into this though?
In what sense?
Well, if somebody says, I'm not in denial about anything, anytime someone says that to me, I'm like, red flag.
Red
It's like
flag.
saying, it's like saying, I'm not angry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In exactly that voice, right? It's just, no, I'm not. I'm not angry. Yes.
I'm not in denial. I'm sure I'm not in denial about anything.
Yeah. I'd say I would say anybody who says that as an absolute is in denial,
Right. Just like anyone who insists that they're not crazy.
right?
Any absolutes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing is that here's what I know, and I mean I've been doing this for a long time, and frankly I'm pretty good at it. Is that every day I can discover things, and until I've discovered them, I don't know. So saying I'm not in denial about anything is saying there's nothing left to discover. That doesn't even make sense,
Yeah, that's true.
right? These are all coping mechanisms, right? And the other thing is, why is it a negative if it's a way to protect yourself, right?
Yeah, why is it, it's almost like it sounds politically correct to say,
I'm not.
the person wants to sound.
Well, they want to sound superior is what they want to. Everybody else is in denial except me. Well, that's just, yeah. Well, why do you need to do that? I'm fine with, I remember years ago, somebody wrote me this thing about being a master in energy work or whatever. And Wayne said, you can't call yourself a master. Like there's basically no certification, right? No, I'm a Reiki master, but really, like he said, base. And I said, well, they're saying that. I'm not trying to claim that. But then I guess it bothered him, and he went off and researched, and he came back and he said, effectively, the term master can be applied if you've studied something deliberately for 10 years. Okay, then I'm definitely there. And the other thing that came out was the master is the one that knows what they don't know, right?
That's
So the
Asian thing, I think.
Yeah, the acolyte talks about what they know. The master says, I don't know. And I absolutely feel like I will discover for the rest of my life.
Knows that they don't know or knows what they don't know?
Knows that they don't know.
Okay.
Because
But
you don't.
The interesting thing about what you just said about predicting behavior is that when somebody does say something like that, that is good information for you to know that they're looking for status.
Right? Very much they're looking for status.
But they're not in.
Oh.
Yeah, when
When they claim they're not in denial, they're definitely looking for
So you
status.
just got information from them.
Because my status has changed with that person, so that's why they were saying that.
Yeah.
I was
Man,
kind
you
of
should pull that
clarifying
curtain
that
more
I'm
up
not
and you're
with that person, not verbally, just energetically.
Yeah.
So that would be why.
So they went looking for status.
Ah.
I finally said to someone that I am a great writer,
Good for you.
and now I feel like I'm shut down. Like, is that a reaction of, oh my God?
Well, because
Like, it wasn't an important person or something.
Doesn't
but
matter.
I actually said, well, I've sold a lot of books, and yes, I am a good writer.
Right? Yeah. And then automatically you put yourself in a threat position,
Yeah, and I can feel it right now,
right?
just from saying it.
But is that because you couldn't predict their behavior from saying that?
No, I don't think that their behavior, it's a threat to me that, oh my
You're
God, if
never
I'm a
allowed
good writer, then what's expected of me?
Well, because you were never allowed to shine either, never allowed to be
Right?
good.
Or
great.
isn't it because
In
you're
accolades.
used to being in seat and now you're not in seat? You've achieved it.
Right? So all
There.
of those things are true.
Which I,
Right?
It's all recorded.
Well, yes, it is recorded,
You want to be in seat. You're no longer in seat. You've achieved it.
right?
You were
So I have to
striving
go
to
back
be a
and
good
forth.
writer. Now you are. What next?
It takes you out of the seek, and seek is the comfort zone,
Yes.
so it's dangerous.
right? Right?
So to let it all go and then start over with a clean slate.
Yes.
Just enjoy writing.
It's also then,
It's at the
Just like
level,
you enjoy the cat.
Right?
that's the first step.
Yeah, but you're going to.
Absolutely.
Oh, boy. I can feel it.
All right. See, there's tons of stuff flushing. Go back to your cell breathing. This is great. Fun because you guys see chatter and I see light show because I see all the stuff that you're flushing out. It's great. The chatter is the processing, right?
With the story.
Yeah. So there's associations, and there's the accumulation, and there's generalization. So accumulation is the stop sign story. If you do it over and over again, you accumulate. The reactions are cumulative. They get stronger and stronger. And generalization is, if he's afraid of the cat, he's afraid of the uncle's beard.
That was called what? Generalization?
Generalization. If you get hit with a ball, then all around things become scary. Right? Is that a question?
Well, I had a question about the shaking legs.
Go.
One or the other doesn't matter. Like, is it both? Like, is there something you're blocking or not blocking? Do both your legs shake when you're doing that? When you're
Sometimes.
moving?
Sometimes.
Or one or the other?
Sometimes one or the other. So it could be shaking. So it could be shaking because you're just relaxed and your central nervous system does that twitch thing. Do you remember the deer twitch thing, right? Which is a release. Okay. It could be shaking because you're suppressing run away.
Suppressing what?
Run away. I want out of here. And this is I would like to run. And you're not letting yourself run, so the legs twitch.
So I could see that being an ADHD kid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. It's funny, my boys were out for a couple of days there around Labor Day, and I found myself gathering up things to put on the table for them to fidget with. So I have a lot of fidgety things, and they tend to be off on shelves. So I have like a thing that's a magnet. It's got all these bits of metal on it. You can play with it. And so I automatically, as I watched them get twitchier, and I automatically started just laying things on, and then they play with them, and they stop twitching because they just have somewhere to direct what they're doing.
Judy has a question for you.
Pat's saying, okay, flushing patterns, allergies. What about arthritis?
So arthritis is inflammation, okay? And it's wear and tear of a specific kind of tissue. So the inflammation part is definitely threat reaction. So that's active threat, okay? The wear and tear on the specific kinds of tissue is about the expression. So bones hold immutable beliefs, things that you think can't change. And it may be below thinking. It may be a just is thing that you hold in the brainstem or the limbic system. How your immutable beliefs express in your life is through the joints. Yeah. I just got a whole bunch of stuff. So for instance, I saw, people who get arthritis in their knuckles and their fingers and stuff like that. There's a desire to grasp things and the feeling that they can't hold them. So that grasping becomes desperate and they get all clenched up. And it's the belief that they need to hold on to something that's causing the problem. So for instance, the kid goes away to school and mom starts to get arthritis in her hands because she really wants to hold the child and hasn't figured out the letting go process. Because that's if you're either going to have a relationship with them as an adult or you're not, right? You can't hold them being a child. The knees are usually about what you believe about how you can move forward. If you think you can be successful, if you think, success is a threat. And you have to go into campfire to find out what is the belief that's being expressed in the knees. Because it won't be what you think. Right?
What's this right here? This has been aging since dinner. It wasn't dinner.
It wasn't dinner. So this is the back shoulder blade? Yeah, okay, I see. Okay. Yeah, just the that's about it's about seeing new directions. Well, that's interesting.
That's a pivot point.
See. Yeah, it is a pivot point. So that literally I saw it's like, can you look in new directions? Is it possible? Can you look in all the different places? That was very literal and very specific.
Pat's asking, what about the big toe? Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying balance.
Okay. So I got two different pieces. So one is specific. So specifically to you, Pat, it's about making your mark on the world. So there's a belief that you're holding about the price of making your mark on the world and what's required and whether you're capable. So those things. So go into Campfire and find out what the beliefs are about making your mark on the world. Generally, more typically, specifically right big toe. This is an aggression thing. It's a suppressed aggression thing in the more general terms. And that actually maps. Okay, so hold on. So it's so this is like, don't stomp on people. So you're okay, that's funny. So you're literally suppressing the need, like, to be aggressive, to stomp on people who are threatening you or interfering with your expression or, interfering, basically. So it's a symptom of suppressed need to protect yourself. And that goes back to it makes sense to me in the terms of making your mark on the world, because what happens is if you've been taught not to be aggressive, and not to aggress in terms of expression, then you've been taught not to make your mark on the world. That's interesting. Say that a different way? Yeah. Sure. So if you think of, I don't know, say you were born to sing, okay? Then what you would have to do to protect the world from your effect would be to stop yourself singing, like restrict your range and things like that. That would be how you would stop yourself from making a mark on the world. Okay? So what would happen is, as you did that suppression, the holding back of making a mark on the world would express as you'd form arthritis in your.
So me holding back on my medium in the second step.
Yes.
So mine is a toe. My body's twisted.
Yeah.
And I keep untwisting.
Yes.
Because it's a hip thing. So
pelvis is the thing. So there's base chakra is I am safe. Mm-hmm. Sacral chakra, which is the one underneath your belly button, is I am me. Mm-hmm. So if your pelvis is twisted, it means you don't feel safe being you.
Yeah, and so that's the fact of
So if you don't feel safe being you, right, there's no way you can get to expressing you in the world. But you haven't even got to I'm safe being me internally yet. Mm-hmm. Never mind bring it external.
Right. And so the second thing is the external. Or is that internal?
It's both. So it has to start with the internal. You have to be safe being you before you can choose how to interact with what's outside you.
Because that'd be too dangerous for the limbic system.
Yeah.
It would interpret it as being too dangerous because you're not.
Yeah, because what will happen is you're not going to let yourself know stuff that would cause you to interact more. So you'll let yourself know stuff that you're okay keeping your mouth shut, right? But you're not about to let yourself know stuff that would cause you to make that mark in the world.
True.
Right? So you'll limit your access.
I'm not safe being me. So if I'm not safe being me, how can I
possibly be safe being a good writer?
Yeah. So go back to the basics.
It always. Right. And it is a cycle. You always have. Every time you make a shift, you kind of have to start over. That's why I like the helix, because it allows you to bring everything, all through your system and resolve it all. Right?
Pat says, I am aggressive in expression. I've been told I'm a force to contend with, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah. So you'll be absolutely aggressive in the places you feel safe, which means it'll be really hard to spot the ones where you don't feel safe. So one thing it might be useful to do, it would be to pause and consider, where do you feel safe speaking out and where do you feel it's appropriate to keep your mouth shut? That doesn't mean you have to not keep your mouth shut. It means just notice, because there are places where you have blocks in place and it's a lot harder to see them, because there are these slivers that you have, right? And go in Campfire and say, Who's not going to speak out? What are you not going to speak out about? Because it's a lot easier to find it there than to try and think about it, right?
So she's responding, where don't I feel safe? I know where sex.
Ah, well, there you go. See, you don't even have, well, I would still go in campfire and find out why. Because the thing you have to remember is that if you don't feel safe, you also will recreate the circumstances that cause you to not feel safe. So, same as with Allison. It's not, Allison said, I hide the emotion. Yes, and that recreates the pattern. The other part of the pattern you will recreate is having a reason to hide it. So you'll have the pattern of, hiding sexually. You will also have the pattern of having a reason to hide. That's you creating that as well.
Does it work for everybody in campfire?
It's like anything, if you're ready and willing to hear it, you'll hear it. If you're not ready and willing, then it's take it apart in smaller pieces. Okay? Because you do get things in campfire. Yep. Yeah, you do. You've talked about it.
You think I'd go to campfire to do it, but it just, not much happens there for me, but then.
And it
There's
does.
nothing left to discover.
It's a whole bunch of la la la.
Yeah, and that's okay. So what that means is go back to the comfort step, because it's la 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 means it's not safe to hear it, right? And that's what I was saying to Estrella is you'll let yourself hear the things that it's quote safe to hear, but you won't let yourself hear the things that could be a threat.
What if I listen to that with the cat asleep on me? With that comfort?
It would be good. That would be good.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's a connection that I'm not allowing myself to have anywhere else.
Yes. So if you want to bring the cat to interact with others, like your child selves, don't bring it into campfire. Instead, make yourself a specific crystal cave that you can bring the cat into.
Well, I just meant have the cat.
Yeah, I understand. But there will be a place where, you have child selves that aren't feeling the comfort. So you want to give them that. That's okay.
Go in crystal cave.
Yeah. As opposed to, don't bring another entity into the campfire with you.
Actually, he's here.
Just a comment, she's saying part of it is I don't want to hurt him, or his allowing himself to feel hurt or less than, and the chance I will be rejected or disappointed. Not safe when it comes to safe in spite of listening to sex workshop numerous times.
Yeah. So understand you're recreating the idea. What your subconscious wants is to recreate that pattern of feeling unsafe and having reasons to feel unsafe. So it's about releasing the pattern of having the reasons as much as it is about releasing the pattern of feeling safe. So go into unlock, call out the people who need you to feel this way, because they're part of the dynamic. Whenever a pattern is part of a construct, you need to unravel the construct to actually release it, right? It's especially if it's part of a structure. So for instance, roles are a structure. So if it's part of, what it means to be female, then you have to take apart what it means to be female before you can release it, because it's anchored in the role. That's okay. I can say it another way and it'll help everybody.
Okay.
So I'm trying to not jiggle. We'll see. See, and now you can make me jealous because you're jiggling. So I want to jiggle.
Jiggling for you.
Are you? Thank you. We have all these patterns, and a lot of the patterns are part of a construct. So for instance, if you have a belief about what it is to be a woman or to be a sister or to be an employee, or, there's all these different things. If it's part of a role, like sister, employee, woman, whatever, then it's the role that holds the pattern. Okay? So in order to release that pattern, you have to deconstruct the role. So for instance, if you're supposed to be caring because you're female, okay, Then if you say, well, okay, I'm codependent, I'm too caring, and you do all this work on releasing being codependent, you're going, why isn't it going? Well, because it's not about being codependent, it's about being female. It's about the role. And so it's like it's anchored in the role. And so you have to remove the connection between caring and female to allow yourself to remove the codependence, because the structure holds it in place. Right? So you did a little ding there?
Well, you just made the connection for me, you know me and my Susie Homemaker. That's what it is now. We've moved on.
Yes.
Because I have been feeling like, you know, when I'm compelled to clean my friggin' house every day, it's like, why do men not have to do this? And so I never made the connection till now. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, sorry?
I said, I wish I felt compelled to clean.
No, you don't. You really don't.
No, I don't.
Truly, you don't.
Trust me, I don't.
I was gonna say, wanna come to my house?
You're right.
No.
Come spend
I
a
don't
few
want to
days.
come to my house.
So, go back to your cell breathing. And just think of one of the little irritants that came to mind when you were thinking of what are the everyday irritants, and think what roles could that be part of? What structures could that be part of? So for instance, Michelle told us the story about her son and him clicking, and I said, so this is because you were taught not to do it. You were taught it's unacceptable. So when you get angry, it's because you're going into protection mode. So it's actually part of your mother role.
So it was my mother that taught me. So, I mean, it was my mother.
It's you being a mother, teaching your son how to be safe in the world, that makes you want to insist he not do it. Okay, and look at your feet again. Well, it's not wrong. I just want you to be aware.
Not taking it that way, yeah.
Yep, just notice, because you automatically
Because
feel
it was probably around the age of 4 that was all being.
you were not allowed. Don't make noises when you eat. It's rude, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noisy eating, yeah.
Yep,
Or messy eating.
all of that,
Messy rooms.
right?
Don't eat
So are we
your-
not making our children conform though?
By teaching them about not being noisy eaters, do you mean?
Or any of those things? Like, is also not like a learning disability or ADHD a conform?
Yes.
Because it's genetic even,
Yep.
right? So it's not just the conform from me, it's the
Yep.
conform from like my whole family.
Yep.
Coming down.
And so, well, and it's genetic imprinting. You can do the genetic imprinting and unlock, right? Because you can go back and you stack up the younger selves and go right back to the conception. And that goes to the genetic. Oh yeah, and it's usually conformed to rebel. That's why my guys all did it. I checked.
Is that mine or is it?
Your kids. So here's what happens is you grow up using rebel to survive, and what gives you permission is a label.
I didn't get the label till later.
You had the behavior. So you didn't get the label until you needed it for your kids.
Label,
ADHD label.
Oh,
So you were doing rebel, and that was your conform program. And then what your kids would do, like basically what you want your kids to do is have permission to not conform. So they have ADHD to have permission to not
so
conform,
if Michelle's son had that label of Tourette's and it was okay to make the clicking sound, she'd be okay with it.
right? See? So yes, they do. They're just fine with it. So you basically were determined to give your kids permission to not be trapped and conform.
I thought, to me, the ADHD was permission to say, too bad, I'm like this, there's a label, I don't have to worry about it.
Permission to
Yeah.
not conform,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, great.
So because Michelle's son doesn't have a label, he's not allowed to.
And I am
she's trying to protect him from
trying to
that.
protect him from ridicule and
Yeah.
Everything.
rejection, which is
All
what
of
I
it.
got.
Yes.
Yes, because, and that makes so much sense now where the like the anger comes from. I'm
Yes.
just like adamant about it, like
Right.
immediately feel.
So here's the thing. If you're thinking, well, then how do you train them to, do socially acceptable things without making them conform? You teach them about affect. Sure, you can make all kinds of noise when you eat, but what effect is that going to have? Is that the effect you want to have?
Daughter today.
Right? What effect is it going to have? Is that what you want? Is that the effect you want to have?
Because I said to him, do you do that at school? That would be kind of distracting. And he's like, no. So if he only does it at home.
Where he feels safe doing it.
Until mom comes with us.
But wait, hold on. It's not that he doesn't feel safe doing it with you.
Oh, I guess he does, doesn't he?
He totally does. Right?
But why is he doing it around me? Because he's looking for me to.
Because you discover yourself in relation to. He's showing you.
You just learned something.
He's
because
helping,
he
he's contributing for you to go.
Damn it. Showing me, how did you know it? You don't need it. Right.
Right?
I was ashamed of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder how many of them he's going to find a way to show you.
well, most of the things he does.
Funny how that works.
So this is interesting. I missed it earlier because I was busy here. And Conrad clicks his fingernails. And I'm telling you, I could get the butcher knife. And he doesn't. It drives me insane.
Yes.
So
When you were a kid, you would have had a fidget and you would have been hurt for that. Right?
With a butcher knife.
Wow.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Physically hurt.
Seriously, possibly. Right? So you were trained. This is a dangerous thing to do. So you want to protect him from the danger. Right? Now, the other thing that would have happened is any of your siblings who did something like that would have been in danger. You want to protect everybody from the danger. So that's why you want them to stop. Because now everybody's in danger because you're doing that. Right?
What if you have the opposite and I pick I bite my nails if we're watching a show and it's kind of like the least bit suspenseful. It doesn't even have to be scary. And because my hubby and I are cuddling, I'm thinking, God, this must be really bugging him, but he never says anything.
He's not reacting
But he
to
doesn't,
it.
you don't need him to react. You're doing it yourself. You're sitting there going, it must bug
be
him.
bugging him.
It doesn't, he doesn't.
And I'm
he doesn't-
appreciating that it's not bugging him. So what the heck is that? I'm thinking, oh,
It's called an
nice that it's
external
not-
Is it bugging
conflict.
you that it's not bugging him? You're just.
No, I'm happy. I'm happy that it's not bugging him. I'm happy that I feel.
But at the same
safe.
time, you're calling yourself wrong.
Yeah.
And that's internal conflict. Parts of you,
Yeah,
yes,
because I was always called wrong by everybody else. And
That's right.
And I'm confused.
But
that
you
he's
don't-
not calling me
you
wrong.
don't need him to because you're doing it.
Right. Because he's not doing it. That's why I start doing it.
Yes.
Okay. Calls me wrong for other things.
But you enjoy the show because you're too busy thinking about.
Yeah. Well, it's just it's like the shaking the leg thing, right? It's like
Well, you're stressed though. Remember,
Yeah.
your subconscious can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality.
Right.
So if there's something threatening there and you're reacting to the threat, it's because your subconscious can't tell it's not real.
Okay, is that also the same as having a big imagination? This is what I always tell him. I can't watch scary movies. He says that I'm very high maintenance when it comes to watching shows because I don't want to watch anything.
You should hear my list. Like,
Big list.
seriously,
Me too.
I have
Things that
no
are
problem with that.
Torture or kids being kidnapped.
All of,
Yeah.
so,
Okay, but that's not abnormal then, right?
oh no, I have, my list is this big. You should see him try and find a movie I'm willing to watch.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
Okay, so then it's just like.
Yes, I like Shrek.
So he enjoys it because he finds that exciting and, he's like, it would be good for you. It would be good for you to watch
No,
something scary.
no,
I'm
it's
like,
not
"It's
good for you.
Under my bed and in the cupboard for like a month.
Yeah.
Right?
After I watch it, I'm like, yeah, just
Right.
make sure it's not in there.
Right?
Underneath the laundry basket.
It is not good for you to watch it. It's not good for him to watch it, but that's not your thing. It's not, no, because so here's the thing. Something like CNN
Yes.
is deliberately designed to be scary because it produces adrenaline and that's addictive.
Yeah, no.
So things like that are designed to raise adrenaline because people will watch it to get the adrenaline fix. They like it. Okay? Because it's the comfort zone to be scared.
So what about sports? Like people will watch sports and like parents in hockey games and
Oh, yeah, they
in
get
the
insane.
stands and they get insane.
Yep.
Like, that drives me crazy. But like why? Like people can't sit and watch a hockey game or a baseball game just to enjoy it. They gotta have that. Is that the same thing?
Yes. Yeah, it is. They're recreating. I mean, think about roller coasters. Like really, like what? The door creaked open for no reason, so everybody reacted to that.
Inside doors open, so it's.
We're just
Ah.
have you a phone with you.
Oh, sorry.
Can I get you to close the outside one if it's still open?
Okay.
Oh, no.
We won't let you be eaten by creatures.
So screaming at a hockey game
Hold on.
is the same idea as like people.
Being agitated
So-
by clicking noise. on the
So they did studies about soap operas because, really, soap operas are lame. Okay?
Yeah.
Why are so lame? They're lame. Why are so people addicted to them if they're lame? Okay? I mean,
Well, they're predictable though.
they are predictable, but what they discovered is people will release their emotions on the soap opera characters that they are incapable of releasing in their life. So they can hate people and get angry and yell at them and be upset and be excited and be happy and, have crushes and all kinds of things. And so the people who are addicted to soap operas are needing a place to release emotion that they don't feel safe releasing somewhere else.
Isn't that a good thing? So like if the
Just a
sport,
quick
if they're screaming and yelling,
They get to
can't
release
do that.
all of that aggression,
Okay.
right?
So
They get to
that's
release
so-
all kinds of aggression,
Women doing
And-
that when the men aren't there to see them, having tears watching the soap operas.
right? So think about this. Like they'll say things, like they'll scream at coaches and other players and stuff that like nobody would say if they're civilized. They
Yeah.
wouldn't dream of it. You put them in a hockey arena and they, it's like all their stops come off, which is why it bothers you. But this is their permission to release all this aggression, right?
Because I can't, like I love sports, but I can't watch them with my husband.
No.
Like we have to be in different rooms.
Oh yeah.
Because that yelling
Yeah.
and screaming just like, but okay, so he needs to let
He
go.
needs to let go of all this aggression.
Okay.
And it's a safe place and way for them to do it, right? Now, reality is playing sports is really important because we have all these guys with testosterone
Yeah.
who have nowhere to put it,
Yeah.
and I think sports is good for everybody, right? Because there's all kinds of stuff you get to express that you don't get to express in other ways.
Is it also a macho thing though for watching scary movies for guys? Like I'm not scared kind of thing, or
I think just in the same way, when they play sports, they get to produce all this aggression and act from it. Okay. I think it's the same way with the movies. So I think what's happening is he's got lots of suppressed aggression, and this is part of how he deals with it.
Maybe he wanted to protect you.
Maybe. He does have suppressed aggression.
I think so. So lots of suppressed aggression, lots of suppressed frustration. And then it's, you can watch a movie where there's a bad guy and you could sit there and go, kill that bastard. And it's not wrong.
Yeah.
You see? It's
Especially if they don't have sports to do it physically.
right.
It's a caricature.
Or.
And so if their sports are solitary sports,
Yeah.
where they're not in competition, like football, you get to beat people up. Hockey, you get to beat people up. If you're doing something like running, there's no beating people up, right? See, so this then becomes a way to have that expression.
But when he works out so hard. I'm wondering if that's not him beating himself up.
Depends on the day. You have a point.
Yeah.
So depends on the day. Sometimes he's just releasing. Sometimes he's punishing. You're right.
So how do you, sorry, no, it's okay. So how do you get to the point to like enjoy watching a movie with them or watching a hockey game, like
So-
watching it together? So what would I have to change? Because I can't. Like, he screams and yells on TV. It's like stupid.
Okay.
Startling sometimes.
Well, so first of all, you don't have to. You don't have to be there.
No, but it would be nice to do something
But
together.
isn't this?
But why does it have to be that?
Yeah, watch
Like-
something else.
But isn't this an opportunity for her to discover herself?
It could be if she needs to, if she needs that to discover. So for instance, it's okay. So if you find like, he's in that aggressive state and it scares you, then you have some work to do. Because you need to be able to sit in the room
Right.
as opposed to unable to sit in the room.
Right. Well,
But that doesn't mean you got to enjoy it. So Wayne likes the news. So he watches the news on his iPad with headphones. I don't need that crap. Right? But it doesn't mean I
Sometimes also
can't.
Doing those things is a way of discovering what you don't like,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's still a form of discovering yourself.
Yes. The thing is, if you already know, you don't need to beat yourself with it.
Yeah.
So, I'll watch action movies as long as they're not too real life. So I was fine with The Marine because it's ridiculous.
With the what?
The Marine. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Blow them up, shoot
Like
things.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I find that a little aggressive. You know, they get a little abusive, but you know. So my line is really funny, you know, like he has no, like he tries, you know, he's like, well, what about this one? No. What about this one? Yeah, that one's okay. And I can tell like he's trying to figure out the formula and he hasn't figured it out.
Are you greenboxing him?
Aha.
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because I've made what I require really clear.
Okay.
You know, like here's the list. It's
But
just
is that his way of trying to conform?
I don't think it's a problem.
Does he still watch those other things, but just not with you?
Yeah, just not with me. Right?
But if he's trying to figure out the formula, is that like
It's not like it
a
bothers him.
Sikh thing?
It's
or-
not like it bothers him.
Well, you say your list is clear, but not to him. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Well, it is clear. And if
He's
he
not
thinks
seeing
about
it.
it, he can do it. He just doesn't want to solve it. He wants me to solve it. So, because this is the contest that happens. You know, you find a movie. No, you find a movie. Well, I'm not finding a movie. I'm going to read my book. You know, so it's that, right? Well, it's up to him. I don't need to watch TV. And he can watch whatever he wants when I'm not there. I'm okay with that. It's not a problem.
What I did, I got a set of headphones.
Yep.
And so he will watch TV upstairs because he loves anything to do with war, blood, and guts. His genre, and I won't watch it. But what I find is that, you know, sometimes I'll say, well, let's watch TV, and oh, well, I don't want to watch a, you know, a sissy movie or whatever. So,
Yeah.
so he'll go upstairs, and it's like, okay, here we are sitting. I'm sitting downstairs watching TV, and he's upstairs. It's like, where's the time? But
There's also what you're in the mood for too,
yes,
you know, right? And that's a real thing. And that's part of the conversation. I mean, it's not, right? Like the other night we watched the new Beauty and the Beast. Well, we both had to be in the mood to watch that, you know. There's times I can tolerate stuff like that and times that it drives me nuts.
Well, Mike asked me if I wanted to watch Trainspotting, and I'd heard about it, but I didn't know what it was about. And we start watching it, and I said, "What's it about?" And he says, "It's about heroin addicts." And I'm like, "That doesn't sound very good." But anyway, I cannot tell you if any of you haven't seen it. That is the most horrible. It was so disgusting. Like every disgusting thing you could imagine.
Was there?
I watched like about 45 minutes of it, and then I thought about you, and I was like, I am so conforming right now because I don't want to hurt his feelings. And I'm like,
Don't need to be there.
where the baby. Okay, I won't tell you.
No, don't go
I was
there.
just like, okay, you know what?
Yep.
And he watched it to the end, and he said to me, you know, it didn't get any better. Because that's what
Right.
stuck it out. I thought, well, maybe it's got a like, you know,
Yeah.
redemption kind of theme.
Yeah,
No,
no.
nothing. It was just
No.
like.
Well, and so this is, you know, and it's, there are things we will watch together. There are things like he'll watch with his headphones on and I read my book or whatever. I mean, it's fine.
You're
It's,
still sharing the time.
uh,
It's still in the same room when you read your book.
I don't know. I mean, we're in the same room, yeah, but I think the time we share more importantly is, you know, we'll go down in the gazebo and have a glass of wine and watch the sunset. To me, that's much more sharing because then we're interacting with each other. Right.
One television, it's like, when we were together, it was, no.
Well, we watch, like he has an iPad and I have an iPad. We're sitting together with iPads, you know, it's not, I mean, there's not a lot of interaction. And if I feel like there's not enough interaction, then I'll talk about what I'm reading or I'll get him to talk about what he's reading. And, you know, so I'm conscious, I'm aware of whether I feel like there's enough or not, or if I feel like we're being roommates, then I'll fix it, you know? And to me, it's just about taking responsibility. I pay attention, it's okay. Right? So I think sometimes I think people need alone time sometimes, right? And so, I mean, I know like when the boys come out to visit, they'll stay up, you know, I'll go to bed 10 o'clock and they'll stay up till 2:30 watching who knows what. You know, and Wayne never plays video games, but he'll play them when the boys come out. Whatever, you know.
I'm glad my hubby has his own thing because I
Yeah.
like my alone time, but we're still in the house, so we spend we spend all our free time together.
Yeah.
But I find when you get to a certain age too, you're kind of like, I'm not wasting my time and stuff. I don't know.
Exactly. I'm not a big TV person. Most of the time, I'd rather read a book. And that's, you know, that's my downtime. It's how I quiet my mind. It's what suits you. So really, it's about telling the truth about what you feel and what's going on with the other person. And is this all working? and what do you need to do to adjust it, right? So it's
You're
okay.
always gonna have the same preferences.
Yeah, it's a mood thing. There's a lot of mood stuff going on. And you know, there are books I won't read unless I'm on vacation because they're too emotionally taxing, because my work is emotionally taxing. So I need the break. Like, I love Diana Gabaldon, but I can only read it when I'm on vacation. So go back to your cell breathing. That's it. And pay attention to flushing. Flushing emotion that you've been holding on to, flushing remnants. You know, you've had all these experiences and a lot of them are held. So think about flushing that out and flushing the patterns. It's actually challenging, you know, to be that dominant, to take that kind of responsibility, to say, this is the way it's going to be. Because you learn how to interact with people as a child when you don't have any authority. Not in your life and not in anybody else's life. So you're learning new methods of interacting because you're coming from a place of authority, saying this is what I like and this is what I want to do and this is what I don't want to do. And there's a choosing how you interact. So I mean, there's lots of times, you know, I might prefer to read a book. I'll watch a movie. I won't watch a movie I don't enjoy, but I'll watch a movie because I want to spend more interactive time with him, and we'll talk about it, you know, make fun of it and all kinds of things. So if I feel like more interaction is required, that becomes an influence on my choice, but it doesn't dictate my choice. It's an influence on my choice, and I decide, right?
So is that the same with the tapping of the legs, of Margot's legs?
Yeah. Right. So it's the recognizing you have a choice, keeping yourself in that place of choice, and telling the truth about the influences. Right. So if, for instance, I don't know, say I was working 3 nights and I really feel like I haven't spent a lot of time with my husband, and then he's going, oh, I want to watch this movie, and I'm going, I don't particularly want to watch that, but I haven't been around for 3 nights. That's where I would stop myself. Say, yes, I would happily watch a movie. I don't want to watch that tonight. We'll find another one. You know, but that's typically where he'll go, okay, you find the movie. Right? Because he automatically assumes, you know, he's not going to be able to figure it out. And that's okay. Right? That's actually him looking for attention. It's him looking for attention. He wants me to take care of him by finding the movie, right? Because I'm usually going, I don't care about the TV, you find the movie. You know? So you take care of me, you find the movie. So the key is tell the truth. Tell the truth about what's going on.
So when we paint a picture,
that sounds like work to me.
Sorry?
I've been single for a long time because that sounds like work.
Well, it means you only have to please yourself. So that's the reality. Well, it's the reality. You know, whoever is present, how much influence do you give them on your choices? Right? So if the boys come out, most of the time, you know, after the sun goes down and they've had their campfire, if we're still doing something, typically we watch YouTube. And they're like, oh, you want to see this? And oh, you want to see that? Oh, you want to see that? And so it's funny to me what we'll end up watching. The last time they were out and we ended up watching YouTube, they wanted to watch the gold ticket stuff from some talent show. Really? Okay. But it was amazing, you know, but like I don't typically watch talent shows. This is like the best of the best. So, okay, fine. It was fun. And there was a lot of like, I can't believe that person is that old, like they're 10 and they can sing like that. That just blows my mind. You know, so because it's the best of the best, and that was what entertained them, and I was fine with it.
Because you were there with them.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wouldn't watch something that bothered me. Right? It may not be something I would do if they weren't there. They have an influence. I decide how much influence I give them. I decide how much I cater. It is different when I'm giving them influence. It's different than if I'm doing only the thing I want to do. Of course it is. This is a reality. The thing is, it's not sacrifice. Because I'm totally capable of saying, see you in the morning, and off I go. And I almost always do that. I never last as long as they do. I was just thinking, like, have I ever lasted? I don't really think I do. I go on to bed and they do whatever they're doing. Whatever. Right?
Then they sleep in.
Yes, they do. And then they make really big breakfast that I have for lunch. Right? And that's fun. So notice there's grief. I can feel grief welling up all over the place because there's so many times that you didn't take care of you or didn't know the truth of where you were giving influence or whether it was sacrifice. So now use the cell breathing to flush the grief. Breathe into that light and flush all the grief all the grief this has brought up and any grief that you might be holding. Because it's very easy when you realize things to say, oh, if I'd known, it could have been different. Lots of grief, lots of flushing. And so while you're flushing the grief, just notice in your body, because frequently you have places where you tuck things. So it could be, if there's grief that you hold or regrets that you hold, maybe you tuck it into your neck or maybe you tuck it into your hip or your knee. And just notice, because you're flushing grief, notice if there's a place where it seems like it's stuck, or notice if there's an ache or a pain that comes up.
Mine's stuck right here.
Yeah.
Me too.
Like right with C17.
Right?
It's down here.
See?
I'm not even registering.
That's okay, because sometimes you do that. Yours is all around your hips and you are flushing.
What? What? What's going on?
Right? And this blocks effect, right? Because it's throat. And this is eye effect. Throat is eye effect. And how often is it about blocking your effect?
Why is on the hips?
Because you didn't feel safe. Right? So you would grieve when you didn't feel safe. It would make you sad. So collarbone, so throat is eye effect. This is eye command.
I command.
Yeah. So collarbone is eye command.
They used to dislocate when I was a teen.
Wow.
If I put little kids on my shoulders, they dislocate and I'd take them off my shoulder and it would pop back. And that's funny is I feel it hurting now and flushing the sadness.
Yes. So think about that, because what you just said is, as a teenager, I so felt that I couldn't command anything,
Nothing.
like that. Yeah, I would literally fall apart over it. Mm.
It's so good to know why that happened now.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's eye effect. Throat is eye effect. And this is resisting. It's like the stomping thing. It's resisting having your mark in the world. Resist. Yeah. Right. Yep. I'm looking. So ears. I mean, people do the automatic linear association, which is, what do you not want to hear? But that doesn't feel. Typically, the ears go with the throat. It's more about the effect thing. But I think both generally and specifically, if we're looking at this from a grief perspective, it's the not wanting to hear because you can't change it. Like you just don't want to hear it because they won't listen. They don't want to know the truth. They want you to listen to their story, and they want you to validate their story. They don't want you to question their story. They don't want you to solve it. They don't want you to help.
They don't want you to have an effect.
They don't want you to have an effect. Right? So this is like the person who says, my head hurts so much because whenever I bang it on the wall, it hurts. And you go, well, you could just stop banging it on the wall. No, they can't hear that. They don't want to hear that. And so it becomes hard for you to hear them say, my head hurts so much, because you're going, just stop banging it.
My colleague had a client like that today.
Right?
With chronic headaches, and she keeps banging her head in the same place.
Right? It's literal, right?
Pat says, so I can flush and improve my hearing and get rid of hearing aids, please God.
You can if you choose to, yes. So think about this, because you keep going back to wanting to help people. The biggest challenge of wanting to help people is that they don't want to be helped. So the more you go back to wanting to help people, whatever label you want to put on it, whatever title you want to, however you want to couch it, the bottom line is you keep going back to wanting to help people, and they just want to bang their head against the wall. They don't want you to tell them to stop it. That's not what they want. Most of the time, if people are looking for a coach or a therapist, they're looking for someone to tell their problems to. They don't want to fix them. Okay?
She's saying that there are some who do want it.
So some who do want it, here's what you just said. It's okay for me to want to help them. So it's okay for me to be codependent. That's what you're saying. So chew on that, because it's not okay. Well, it's okay if you want to hurt yourself, go right ahead. That's your choice. However, if you're saying, I want to be able to hear, then you need to tell the truth about what you're doing to your hearing. If you say, there are people who want help, therefore it's okay for me to want to help them, you're still saying it's okay for me to be codependent. Because if you're looking for the people who want help, you're attaching to the outcome.
How can you make your mark of the world doing that?
How can you make your work of the world attaching to outcome? You can't.
Exactly.
Right? You're automatically negated because they are in control of the outcome. You aren't.
So what about people that have tinnitus?
Hold on a second.
She's saying, are you
I don't help anybody. I don't. People do their own thing. How many times have you heard me say that? I'm really clear. And if I find myself slipping into that, I kick my own ass to get out of it, because it's like, why am I doing that? Why would I do that to myself? It's my responsibility, mine and only mine, to make sure I don't fall into the helping thing.
So there's people that have tinnitus.
Yes.
Is like that constant.
Tinnitus is ringing in their ears.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is that? Is that
It's actually dissociation. Tinnitus is a dissociation. It's a really good barrier between you and the world.
okay?
Right?
Is autism that?
I don't think,
Barrier between them and the world?
I don't think so. I don't feel like that when I interact with autistic people. When I interact with autistic people, most of the time I feel like they're operating at their own frequency, and they're not particularly interested in not interacting with the rest of the world.
Okay.
Right?
It's not about avoidance.
I don't usually get that from them.
Interesting.
I won't. I don't. I avoid saying never.
Absolutely.
But typically, like all the ones I've ever interacted with, they're fine where they are. And they have people who are, saying, I want you to interact in the way I want.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that the label of autism is good for is saying, it's not okay to impose your way of interacting on this person. Yeah. Right? They keep discovering, one of the things that's cool about autism is they keep discovering that these people have really good ways of interacting.
It's not listening correctly, or in the way that they can.
Well, so for instance, I remember one documentary about this girl, and she'd been a headbanger, didn't speak, nonverbal, was like basically considered severely retarded. And then one day, somebody put her on their knee in front of a computer, and she started typing on the computer like a complete, language of more advanced than her age.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, she could communicate that way. Never did it before. And they considered it an accident that she found this, that, they discovered she could do this. The thing is, it was always there. Well, and she wasn't seeking the connection. They were.
Oh, that's her net, yeah.
right? So that was the interesting thing, and
So that's why she wasn't motivated.
she wasn't motivated. Didn't bother her any, right?
Anything to do with the hands, like the sore thumb, would that be the grasping?
So what's interesting about our thumbs is, opposing thumbs are a specific kind of brain function and skill set. I mean, we and raccoons have them, which is interesting. But there's a lot of things you can do, like grasp with an opposing thumb, that you can't do without an opposing thumb.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's about the thumb, it's going to be about the things you can do because you have it, which is things like grasp. Right? You can type without the thumb. You can hit things without a thumb, right? But you can't grasp, right? And you can't hold. Can't hold with a hoof, right?
So and especially with the right hand, got it both, but mostly with the right hand, it's the,
Right?
I'm not, yeah.
Interesting, hey? So it's also, it's socially defined as, having intelligence to have an opposable thumb, which is why raccoons bother people, because, they're,
Them and primates.
well, primates are
Are
considered,
they opposable?
yeah, they are. Raccoons are. That's why they can all get into all the garbages and stuff. It drives people crazy because they don't want to think, oh, this is supposedly a simple animal and it has this mark of, intelligence. They're okay with the primates because they're supposed to be our ancestors. We evolved, right?
The opposable thumb itself is not a mark of intelligence.
It isn't,
It's what allowed intelligence to develop.
because of using tools, right? And things like that.
It didn't happen for raccoons as much.
Right?
For some reason.
Or they didn't need to. They didn't have that urge.
I killed one on Saturday.
Sorry.
I killed one on Saturday.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's frustrating
I
because,
drove,
yeah,
highway.
they like to do that.
Yeah. I went, oh my God.
Well, and so this becomes one of those things. People consider the opposable thumb as a mark of intelligence. Clearly it's not, or is it that they want it to be a specific kind of intelligence to exclude other kinds of intelligence? Right? Dolphins are supposed to be remarkably intelligent. They do not have opposable thumbs, right? Right?
Crows were very intelligent.
Right? So the idea that, humans are intelligent and have opposable thumbs and that excludes other kinds of intelligence, again, seeking status, right? Not the truth.
But I'm just not allowing myself to grasp.
And own your intelligence,
Oh, it's intelligence, so that's what.
right? Yeah. So grasping, owning, right? Owning, being a good writer.
Doesn't the arm also come up to here though?
And it comes up to the heart, which is a big deal, right?
Julie says both knees for me are quite heavy right now.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So that's a fear of force. And that's a specific versus a general. So very much a fear of force. So we were talking about the, making your mark in the world by stomping your foot kind of thing. That was what came of the big toe piece. But it's, for you, it's like it can't get to the foot because you're going, don't want to have that aggression, don't want to feel that aggression, don't want to feel the anger. I mean, you're practicing, about releasing anger, about releasing those things. The thing is, if you always treat it as, oh, that's something that's in my body, I got to get it out, then that's a way of calling it wrong. So what if it's okay to be angry? And then what is the value of that? What does that give you? What does it empower? What does it allow you? So it's, if you always think of a specific, if you think of emotions as something that have to go, then you're saying they have to be disposed of. So it's important that the emotion flow and go in the sense that they have their own natural life cycle, So instead of holding on to it, you want to let it pass, which is, it'll always pass. It's natural. Okay. That's different than saying, oh, I've got anger, I better get rid of it. Yeah. It's like you're calling it wrong by saying the only thing to do with it is get rid of it. So what if you allow yourself to feel it? Then what is that fuel? What does that permit? That would not be permitted if you purged it. Okay, go back to your breathing. And so as we've been, where we started was, these are, what are these little things that irritate you? What are these little things that you use to hold on to those comfort zones? And just go back and check through them, because a lot of them have shifted. Some of them have started to shift. Some of them have just already gone. Allow yourself to check that. Notice we use this to hold on to comfort zones, to recreate those childhood emotional dynamics. And we use them to interfere with our own effect. So, stopping you making the mark in the world, stopping you upsetting other people's comfort zones, stopping you from making change that upsets your comfort zone. So we're really good at distracting ourselves, at interfering with ourselves, really good at that. We're really good at giving the people around us messages so that they will fulfill it for us. Earlier, Pat mentioned, sex was the thing that she was using to create conflict. So what I want you to do is think of those things that you use to create conflict and do a fantasy of a perfect. Do a fantasy of the ideal, imagined, couldn't possibly happen in real life, spectacular sexual encounter. Or do the perfect, team at work where, everything was so spectacularly, couldn't be better. Do the fantasy of your body being perfect, ideal, better than you could even imagine. And allow yourself to go through that fantasy. Notice that it's going to be uncomfortable, because if it wasn't uncomfortable, you'd do it. Okay, right? So allow yourself to go through the fantasy and just watch the reactions you have. And you'll tell yourself all kinds of stories. Oh, well, that's just not realistic, or this, you'll have all kinds of stories, and notice that they're stories. Because if it's just a fantasy, so what? Why do you need to rein it in? So allow yourself to have the fantasy and allow yourself to extract all those blocks to this fantasy. Because here's what you do. When you imagine it, you teach your body to be safe with it. You teach your body to experience feeling that, and the feeling is the magnet for manifesting. The feeling is the magnet for manifesting. So the more you practice feeling something, the more you can allow it to come. When you start out, you have to watch, oh, I'm uncomfortable with that, or I'm uncomfortable with this, and allow yourself to flush those things. So you can use the cell breathing or the unlock, whatever works to help you flush it. And as you get better at having these sort of outrageous fantasies, as you get better at it, you can challenge yourself more to make it even more spectacular. Okay? And allow yourself to practice feeling it, because as you practice feeling it, you allow it to come. Manifesting. Emotion is the magnet for manifesting. Magnet for manifesting. So what you feel is, what you attract. Oh, flush some more. Breathing into that light. As you breathe out, flush. Breathe into the light. As you breathe out, flush. But the other thing that happens when you fantasize is you can often like get angry because this is not real life. You know, if you imagine this or you imagine that, like, you know, and then you can go, well, you know, that's just impossible because life is like this, right? You know, there probably isn't a guy with 2 penises, whatever you come up with, you know?
Actually, there is, I saw him on the internet.
Right? Well, it's an easy one to make people laugh, right? So it's easy to say this is impossible and it can't be, and just be angry and frustrated and all the rest of it. And that puts you right back in your comfort zone. So it's about allowing yourself to put whatever the fantasy is so that you can get to that feeling. And when you find yourself stopping yourself, like with the frustration or that's not real or, you know, that can't happen, then recognize you're clinging to your comfort zone. And then you need comfort so that you can feel safe. Okay? Because going outside your comfort zone doesn't feel safe.
So being unable to fantasize for most of my life
It's all about being unsafe.
because it wasn't safe to even, I mean, I would never have the nerve to ask for something, so why would I even fantasize?
Right? And because we're trained to conform, we're programmed to conform and trained to conform, you know, what you're willing to ask for is what you've been taught it's safe to ask for. Right?
So fantasizing, is it not like dreaming?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Lucid dreaming.
Right? Yay.
Are there scents that could help with the limbic system?
Yes. I might be able to get them, but it's too late for that right now.
Because they go right to the hypothalamus, right?
Yeah, they do. I know I have a book that I got from doTERRA that's it's about, you know, emotional mapping to the sense. So I mean that stuff exists, and if you want the name of the book, I can give it to you.
I've got a copy.
Yeah.
You have a copy?
Yep.
Copy?
Of the book, right? I mean, I have a copy as well. And if you want me to bring it next time, send me an email and I'll put it in the box so that you can look at it. So that's fun because it'll say like ylang ylang is good for clearing child issues, and frankincense is good for clearing daddy issues. And, you know, so
There's a smell you don't like. Is that also not?
Oh, so I'll tell you. At one point, I was playing with oils with something, and Andrew was there, and I opened up one, and he was like, "Okay, that's disgusting. It's going to make me puke." And I went, "Okay, so now I have to go look it up." So I looked it up, and I read him what he said. He said, "Give it to me." Damn it. And, you know, it took him about, give it to me. Give me the damn bottle. It took him about 4 hours to clear what it was, but he cleared it, and then it was fine. It was neutral. Right? Because it was a reaction. And when I read him here's what it says about the emotion of that oil, he knew, like, okay, that's all right, fine. Give it to me. I will go work on that. And he did.
So it might not be a smell you like.
Well, actually, if it's a smell you don't like, it's triggering, right? And that's why I said that. You know, he immediately reacted to it. And once he cleared it, it was neutral. It didn't matter. He didn't like it, but he didn't dislike it. It was neutral. Okay? So, like the really, really, really liking the scent could be a reaction. Disliking the scent could be a reaction.
So if an asthmatic, let's say, smells something, sometimes it'll trigger that, or a migraine patient.
That's the association. We're back to the cat thing, right? So it's about, if you remove the association, which is breaking those links, then you can remove the reaction. I have an article called, I think it's called Breaking Chains in the library on the site, and that's what it says. It says, you know, here's what you do, and here's how you break the association. The thing is, you guys can do it with unlock, you can do it with the cell breathing. You know, tools are about aim. That's what they're for. So it's whatever one speaks to you, whatever one works best for you, that's the one to use.
So even fantasy could be a tool.
That's why I'm giving you fantasy homework, right? All right. So last flush, and then we will call it a night. Just think about flushing whatever needs to go. And I can feel you steaming over there, Pat. So it's the key is to go to, this is what entertains me. It's not about helping people. It's about being entertained. It's about having fun with it. So if you think of people as needing help, they're not fun. They're work. So it's, you have to get to that place of, this is what entertains me.
So if you're thinking about your career, you're thinking, I want a career that draws people that entertain me.
Right? That they're fun, they make me feel good, right? Okay, so release that cell breathing. And take a moment and congratulate yourself. Good work. We do good work. We do. Yeah, you still have stuff coming off your hips. Right? Right? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So we discussed earlier that this is blocking fulfillment, right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, it's you're not comfortable being in the fabulous workplace.
Right.
So it's this has what your goal is to release needing the miserable workplace, basically.
Or is it me seeking attention?
I like that. I would tell you. If it felt like that, I would say.
There was a woman on my tour who was always talking to herself and muttering away and getting in the way, and I would sit there and say, yeah, this, because I talk to myself a lot at home, and even when I'm out, I'm thinking, yeah, this is a definite strong mirror.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I will see you in October. We have 4 more here, October, 2 in November, 1 in December. And then we go to all online for January, yeah. When I will be in Florida for that one.
Same place?
Yep.
Is it done though, December? Or
Yes, this year
Yeah.
is done. So then you have to decide if you want to be in the next one. We'll send out some emails about that. You can decide. I'll put the dates. Well, Judy will put the dates and stuff in them. I am retiring. I am keeping this group. Provided there's registration. There's none. But frankly, like I said, two-thirds of the group is online anyway, right?
So we should look up your article on breaking chains immediately. I downloaded a whole slew of
Yes.
those articles and stuck them away.
Yes. Well, the articles are not going to go away. It's only the store that's going away. So what will happen is the library contents and the blog will move over to the patriciawall.com site. And the other two, so what's on the Teaching Self-Mastery site blog, which is the shows, they'll move over. The library articles will move over, and then the 2 sites will go away over time. But at the end of September, the store is gone. And that's because my corporate year end is at the end of September. We're not going to carry it over. It's very straightforward that way.
They're gonna burn all the rest of the CDs.
No, I'll just leave them there. They'll be fine.
They'll disappear over time.
They will disappear over time. That is exactly right.
Do you have the CDs at your place, or do you?
I have some. I don't make anymore. I stopped.
The rebel one? I just was wondering.
You can only get that as a download.
Down.
You can burn them yourself.
Yeah.
You can. And one of your kids could teach. One of your kids could do it for you. Seriously, right? Right?
You know what I'm saying.
She could, but you don't want to burn the Rebel CDs. How perfect is that, right? Yes, I get it.
Not rebel at all.
Right?
No.
No.
Not denial.
No denial whatsoever.
Right?
And I'm not angry.
Right? Exactly.
Good joke.
Right? Yes. Yes.
Dad's favorite.
All right. So in either tomorrow or the next day, I'll have this put up on the replay page. Let's see.
Thank you, Trish.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Very good class.
And good night.
Finding myself some of that.
I really like it.
Ah, a little bit better.